Hello, Pancake Rockers, and thank you for joining us for another Conversations on the Rocks. So, today, my special guest is Jennie Phillips. Jennie is a certified personal trainer, nutritionist, health coach with her company For Vitality, where she helps improve people's health through the fitness, nutrition, sleep, and stress. And we are going to be with her for a four-part series where we will talk about all four of those things. Jennie has a background in science and education, and she believes in meeting people where they create personalized strategies that can lead to these lasting lifestyle changes. Today, I would like to welcome her, and I also would like to point out that she has written a book called The Yellow Light Moments, and it's a wonderful book that I think everybody should check out and see what they think. I love it, and I want to thank her so much for joining us for our Conversations on the Rocks. So let's get to it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for another edition of our Conversations at the Rocks. I'm back again with Jennie Phillips, and we are talking about sleep, the topic that nobody likes to address, the elephant in the room, if you shall say. But I think the biggest thing with the sleep that we can talk about is how to help our bodies get the very best we can get. And I know, Jennie, you had told me before we were doing these topics how you would always start with sleep as the big important thing that people should talk about. So, how do you define a good sleep, especially with someone who does have chronic illness?
Absolutely. In a perfect world, sleep defined as far as what every normal person should get is 7 to 9 hours of quality, consistent every night, same time you go to bed, same time you wake up, sleep. But when you're living with a chronic illness, that doesn't always happen for so many different reasons. For someone with lung disease, and you can share about this, sometimes it's laying down and realizing all of a sudden you really notice your breath and you notice the ability that it's hard to breathe. And then that causes more shallow breaths and causes some fear and anxiety. And the next thing you know, well, you're not settling down for a good night's sleep. For people
Mhm.
who have chronic illness, I suffer with lupus. And so sometimes it's the pain and it's the inflammation that's at night. Sometimes it's not so much the physical components, but it's the mental components about worrying of doctor appointments and numbers and how things are going. Did I put so much into my day? It might be some emotional stress that is going on that you lay down and again, you're thinking, I need 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but I'm just not sure my body is going to give that. So I look at sleep versus rest and recovery. If you're not getting quality, constant sleep during the night, then what can you do during the day that will give you some rest and recovery? Are there ways that you can pause throughout the day to meditate and just get some calming space in your head? Maybe it's through prayer and having a connection of being able to surrender some of that control and rest. It might be some deep breathing so that way you can bring down that nervous system and deregulate that. Just trying to figure out how can you support your body in the most optimal way during that rest and recovery time, because it really is so important that our body has that ability to reset during, and if it doesn't do it at the night, we'll have to find different ways that we can control that during the day.
Mhm. Oh, for sure. And you're right. You touched on something with the frustration. So, and I know people who have insomnia, this definitely is always an issue too. When they're frustrated because you're trying to lay down to go to sleep, and then you start thinking about it, and then thinking about everything else under the sun. It can be hard. So, what do you have some tips or some ways to try to rein in that frustration on trying to do it all right? Or maybe that's the point. We need to let that go.
Letting it go is, knowing that we're not in the pursuit of perfection when it comes to sleep, when we're dealing with processes like this. So at night, if there's things that are on your head that you need to get rid of, I always encourage my clients to have a notepad by the side of their bed so they can, if there's something mentally that they're worried about or a question that they need to ask the next day, write it down, brain dump everything that you can. If it's a worry, if it's anxiety, put it out on paper, let it go, let God during the night. And that way, when you wake up the next morning, you can say, okay, I'm going to start fresh from that. Sometimes before going to bed, it's just, okay, let's reset our frame of our mind, our frame, reframe our thoughts. And so it might be sitting down and writing down three things that we are grateful for, maybe writing one fun or joyous activity from the day, giving yourself credit for one thing or one achievement that you did throughout the day, one thing that something was kind that someone did for you or that you did for someone else, finding the positives so that when you lay down, there's a lot of times those thoughts and those worries and all of that starts to flood our head. But if we can just focus on where those positives are, then sometimes that will help. I also find that if you are wrestling to go to sleep or you have been in bed you've woken up in the middle of the night and you cannot fall back to sleep, don't just lay there. Sometimes it is better to get up and walk around and reset yourself because you don't want to associate your bed with being anxious and being frustrated. We want that to be an area, a sanctuary of slumber and peace and rest. So sometimes getting up and just resetting, saying, this isn't working. I'm hot. I'm uncomfortable. My legs seem restless. Maybe I need to go get a drink of water. I know sometimes medications cause frequent
Mm-hmm.
bathroom breaks. So get up, go to the bathroom, try to reset, then lay down and start again. I can
Mm-hmm.
usually take some really good deep breaths, slow down my heart rate, and then see if I can fall asleep back again. But if you're frustrated, don't lay there because then you start to associate that
Mm-hmm.
frustration with the bed.
Yeah. And that is a very another thing. When we were talking about this before, we discussed our sleep environment. And
Yes.
you definitely enlightened me a lot on how I should not make my bedroom my all go-to room of everything. And for me, that's laundry. It becomes my laundry room. And to not do that. And tell us more about that environment.
Yeah. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for you. When you walk into that space, it should invite you into slumber. And
Mhm.
too many times we are guilty of having the laundry folding on our bed. It might be the place where we throw the bills because we're going to pay those later. We might actually have a workstation in there. My bedside table, technically, now is still a desk because when we were going through COVID, I took out my bedside table, put a desk there so that I could have some separation when the kids were home. And so it's still there, but now I don't use it as a workspace, but I do have my Bible and my journal there for at night when I want to write that down. A lot of people will keep treadmills in their room because they don't have a workout space. And so they're like, okay, this is a space I can go and I can work out.
Yeah.
Again, it becomes a place where the laundry is sometimes hung
Yeah.
on. So when you walk into your room, you want it. This is your time to get really personalized. This is your time to really get selfish with your space. Make it the color that you love and feels inviting. Make it feel like a spa when you walk in. Does it have a nice scent to it? Did you plug something in? Do you have
Mhm.
aromatherapy going? Make sure you have great, comfortable blankets and pillows. If you haven't upgraded your mattress in a while, this is your time to say, I'm going to do something for myself. And I'm
Mhm.
going to make sure that I have the best environment to climb into at night with those sheets and pillows and that bed. Make it cool, calm, cozy, quiet. For me, dark shades, darkening shades will keep out, especially right now because we're in the summer light. So, it's 9:30 and you can still see peaks of light throughout. And so if
Yeah.
I'm going to bed earlier in the night because of my wake up time, those darkening shades help a ton. Our bedroom is also on the second floor. It tends to get a little warmer up there. And so we have our own cooling unit in our room so that we can set
Mhm.
it at the perfect temperature for us. We like to sleep between 64 and 66. Your body likes it cool. And
Mhm.
so you don't want to wake up and being hot flashes or again medication or flares or all of those things that can cause those at night. So keeping that cool as well. I also don't love external noise. And so having a fan, maybe that goes, it just gives a little white noise.
Mhm.
Or we all had them when we had little kids and we had those white noise machines for our
Mhm.
babies.
Mhm.
It's okay to still use those and have some white noise going. So again, it just
Mhm.
blocks any distractions. It might be We love our neighbors, and the little boy out there loves to play basketball. And sometimes it's early in the morning or late at night when he's getting his practice in. I love that, but I don't want to hear the ball late at night when I'm trying to,
Yeah.
to settle in.
Yeah.
It could be the school buses in the morning or the garbage cans or whatever the case might be. But if you can
Or if
block
you live
that,
next to a pickleball court, apparently that's a big fish to swallow.
oh, right. There's so many variables, right? So again, this is your time to say, I'm going to make this space all about me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to, or you and your spouse, or you and your partner, whoever is in there with you. Um, if you do well sleeping with a partner, great. If you don't feel guilty about that either. I know people that come in and talk about like, oh, my dog kept me up all night.
Oh
Put the
yeah, dogs are
dogs
the worst.
put the dog somewhere else, put the cat somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you have to put the plus one somewhere else every once in a while so you can get a good night's sleep, there are people that honestly they either work swing shifts and so
Yeah.
they don't go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, and that is a disruptor, or they might find that someone has sleep apnea, or they have a snoring problem, or they have bad allergies, or just something that you can't zone out. You've tried and you've worked. So don't feel bad about also having different sleeping quarters, because sometimes, again, when that sleep is your medicine for how you're going to feel the next day, it's truly important to give yourself the best opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And that's very important too. I'm with the chronic lung disease. There's so many factors that can play into this. You're coughing nonstop. So your partner, maybe they can't take it. Maybe they've tried. Maybe there's times where it's worse. So it is always good, I think, to have maybe a separate sleep environment place that you can go to when it ever gets to that point where it's just you're both kind of on each other with that. And then another thing I like to say too is it changes too. Like your sleep environment probably changes all the time with different things going on in your life. With lung disease, we have different types of oxygen, and some of them are these concentrators that you plug in and they're loud. So if that's a problem to be in the bedroom next to you, just see about getting long extension tubes for your oxygen. And then you can have it in another room and you have your long extension tube to use too, which would help if that's still keeping you up too. But also that leads to another thing with how to sleep. So are you a slide sleeper? Are you a back sleeper? That's a huge thing with chronic illness. Maybe you can't sleep on your side and you have to try to figure out another way to sleep.
I am definitely a side sleeper. It's so funny. I think that starting 23 years ago when I had my first baby, and they said you should sleep on your side, on the left side, because it was better for the
Mhm.
baby. And then they said get the body pillow. And
Yes.
so then I have that, and I've never given that up. But I also am people make fun of me this all the time. I make like a little cocoon when I sleep. And so I like it's like a not a weighted blanket, but I do it as a pillow. And so I put a pillow on top of
Mm.
my head and I make like this little air hole. And
Oh,
everyone's like, "Are you sleeping in there?" And I'm like, "I totally am." It knocks out the rest of the noise, not knocks out the rest of the light, but it also that compression. I suffer from migraines, and so sometimes just having that extra compression, just a little bit on my head, helps at night and helps me sleep. And so it really is interesting how many different patterns there are. But throughout my chronic illness, I dealt with a spastic esophagus, and with that, laying flat on a
mhm.
bed was impossible. I could not breathe. I could not swallow during that time, and so I had to sleep at a 45-degree angle. And so
Mhm.
whether that is putting pillows up in an angle so that you're not laying flat, or we were able to purchase a bed that you raise the head of that,
Yes.
but not everybody can sleep at a 45-degree angle. So
Yeah.
again, that was kind of a moment in our lives where we had to separate the rooms because that's not always conducive for both people. But
Mhm.
again, if you're going to sleep, you have to kind of find what works for you.
Yeah.
Now, when we travel, we always ask the main desk if we can have extra pillows because we will raise the head of the bed
Mhm.
because we know we sleep better that way.
Yeah. Well, and my husband and I got that adjustable mattress, and we were going to get the split one, but there was some bad reviews and this and that. So we got, one together and I regret it. I wish we would have got the split
Same
one
here. Same
because it's
here.
like he really likes it almost down and then just a little bit up. And honestly, sometimes I want the feet up. I feel like
Yes.
I change all the time. But I
Yeah,
know
we say
it's
the
like,
same thing. We didn't splurge on that because I was like, I think we're good. I think we're the same. And then I don't know, it was like a year or two into owning the bed. And I'm like, well, I guess the next one we purchase. I mean, it's a big purchase. So, right.
it is, yeah.
You're not going to go out every time is and get a bed. But so we're doing fine with it. But at the same time, I think we do talk about the next one might have the double split to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's okay to change things up. I mean,
Absolutely.
everything changes all the time anyway with our diseases and stuff too. You had mentioned before when we were talking about how sleep, um, you know, some people love to nap during the day. And I think chronic illness people, we definitely, sometimes we probably do need that extra nap, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I know it's very much hard in our culture to say, yes, we need that. I mean, sometimes I wish we were in Europe and we could have our like siesta time and stuff that they have in
Yes.
Italy. But unfortunately, we're go, go, go. So, what do you think about that? How do you feel about having that extra time?
I love naps personally. And I think because I do start my day super early with my clients, and then I also close the gym late. And so sometimes during the day, I have mandated that I have no less than a 2 to 2.5 hour lunchtime. So that way I do have time that I can get my lunch in. Sometimes I get a workout in, but it also gives me the ability that if I want to lay down, I have at least an hour because I've noticed
Hmm.
that anything less than that, I get anxious. Like, okay,
Hmm.
I only have 30 minutes. I'm not going to fall asleep.
Yes.
Then at that point, knowing that I've got to wake myself back up, and I always set an alarm, but I won't even fall asleep. So
Yeah.
that 2.5 hours gives me time to leave the gym, come home, get comfortable, decide how I'm going to do that. But then take the nap, get my lunch in, and then get back to work and work the remaining hours
Yeah.
of my day. But I think that it's not about being lazy. Like people will say, well, you're lazy, you had to go you had to take a nap. Again, it's defining where you thrive, and everyone is going to thrive differently. And people will say, well, you can survive on less than 6 hours of sleep. Sure, you can, but your body's probably not thriving like that.
Mhm.
And so, if there's a night in which I did not get a good night's sleep for whatever reason, whatever variable was off for you that night, having that space already made into your day. And again, if I don't need the nap time, great. Then that'll be a time that I can go for a walk. Maybe I can catch up on reports if I need to at work. Maybe it is I just want to call a friend and have lunch. You've created that margin. And I think
Mhm.
too many times we don't create that margin in our day. But if sleep ever does become something where you're like, I wasn't able to get the sleep, I wasn't able to get the nap in, maybe your job, not everybody has the ability to have the
Mhm.
control of their
Yeah.
schedule. I own
Yeah.
my own business, so I'm capable. But if you're in an office where you don't have that, they don't have a break room. I mean, we live in St. Louis. We're not walking outside to go take a little siesta in our car these days.
Yeah.
It would not be possible. Then I say focus on the other variables that you can focus on. So when sleep is suffering, know that I talk about 4 pillars of vitality. So sleep, nutrition, movement, and self-care. They don't stand alone. These are 4 interconnected pillars that then blend off of each other and support each other in different ways. So if you don't sleep well, can you make sure that you're eating to the best of your ability and you're not all of a sudden throwing in some high inflammatory foods or foods that are no going to be a
Mhm.
trigger? You didn't sleep well. All right, well, maybe I'm going to change my workout a little bit and I'm not going to go for the long run. I'm not going to hit the heavy weights. I'm going to do something that gives my body a little bit more grace because I know that I'm probably a little bit more exhausted. I
Mhm.
didn't sleep well, so maybe I need to take a little time for self-care today. Maybe I need to sit down and I need to do some yoga. Maybe I need to do some meditation. Maybe I need to spend a little time, in thought and prayer. Maybe I need to find some quiet time.
Mhm.
Sometimes our self-care is with people, but sometimes it's alone because you need that solitude, and that's okay. And so find out maybe what other factor you can feed if sleep isn't a good one for you at that time. But also know that your body runs on our circadian rhythm. So it likes to go to bed at the same time and it likes to get up at the same time. It's
Hmm.
typically how we are made. So just like babies, we put them to sleep at the same time, they get up naturally about the same time, they nap about the same time. It's about consistency then with that schedule. So sometimes we're really good during the week because we know I have to get up in the morning. And so we say, okay, I'm going to go to bed at a certain time. Other times we're like, last night, US soccer was on. I'll be honest. Guess who was up watching the game and didn't get to bed till 10 o'clock, where normally I'm in bed by 8:30.
Hmm.
And so at that point, there are those moments that we do that, but that means I just have to adjust my day for that. And so
Hmm.
giving people the grace for that, I think is really big, or giving yourself grace for that is good. And then just focusing on what you can control.
Yeah. And that's very important too. I mean, it is hard if you work a big job to able to get a break. Like, I give 30 minutes for lunch if I'm working in the pharmacy and there's no breaks in between.
Right. Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
is sometimes a matter. But what I have found is that it's not so much that maybe I don't necessarily need a nap, although I would love a nap. And I'm just like you, it's got to be longer than 30 minutes. But maybe I really need a break away from the computer, the phone. Maybe I need to really set that phone down or just play music on it so I'm not like looking at it, and read an old book or just sit there and try to let my mind rest, because we're
Yes.
constantly reading and looking at things that our mind is go, 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 go. That I think people don't realize how much that is a stressor and a change in your sleep patterns too.
Yes. Taking that technology break during the day is huge, but also knowing at night you want to get rid of those screens before you go to bed. So an hour and a half before bed, make sure that you're putting those screens down, getting away from that light. If you need to use the blue blocker glasses, that's a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that you're not eating 2 hours before bed so that your body has time to digest, so that you don't lay down. And for anyone who's dealing with acid reflux, all of a sudden it starts to come back up. Making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're not having caffeine, depending on who you are and how you digest it. But I usually say the cutoff point's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon because of the half life of caffeine. You don't want it to be too close to your bedtime. Making sure that you're not exercising right before bed, because you want to make sure that your body has the ability to downgrade its temperature, re-regulate itself, get the heart rate where it is. Some people thrive at working out right before bed. They love to go hit the gym late at night and then come home, shower, and then they crash really well. Again, it's going to be a story by story or moment by moment for
Mm-hmm.
every person. It's not one playbook. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to figure out that pattern for yourself.
Yeah. And that's right with your chronic illness. Trying to lay down and go to sleep, like I said, it changes all the time. And I think you have a great idea. You were talking about the journal for whenever we were talking about the stressors, writing those down. But I think it's a great idea to have your journal to where you could write down things that happen with your sleep. So if you have lung disease, sometimes maybe you're having your own flare up of coughing all the time because you have an infection going on. So maybe trying different things out to help you get to sleep, trying different techniques, sitting up more so there's not so much drainage, different things, and writing that down and kind of keeping a journal so maybe in the future these things worked when I did this, this, and this. And so asking you with those flare-ups with the lupus, with pain part of that, what are some suggestions you have on that or have worked for you?
Usually, if I know it's going to be a really long day for me on my feet, then I know that I need to wear like some type of compression pants that helps with the pain in my legs. I know that at the end of the day, if I've got the ability to put on like some type of therapeutic boots, then I will use that. Again, I know not everyone has access to those kinds of things. Compression pants you could, or some type of compression sleeve
Mm-hmm.
would help. Um, Putting my feet up at the end of the day, laying with my feet up against a wall would really help with that. But pain will come in different ways. Again, if it's a headache, again, sometimes that's tied to a mental stress. Sometimes it's tied to a hormone stress. Sometimes it's tied to hydration. So knowing when you can use, a home remedy, like maybe a
Mm-hmm.
cold towel on your head or a migraine cap, versus when you need to use that rescue med, you
Hmm.
that's that's something that we are obviously always working through as far like when do we medicate, when do we not, what is our
Hmm.
daily, what is our not. And so again, like you said, you have to experiment with some of those things and you learn over time what triggers you. So
Hmm.
okay, if it's going to be a long day on my feet, then I need to make sure that I leave a little extra time at the end of the day for these particular things. Maybe it's a nice slow flow yoga just to kind of get things moving, or just some nice gentle stretching that relaxes those muscles. I like to get every 4 weeks get a massage, so that way my body just has a nice reset time when those muscles are starting to feel achy. So trying to figure out where you can plug those things in to help your body.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's great advice. Because it really is always an issue. And again, that's also an ebb and flow thing too. And a thing with medicine too is even when you get to that point where it's disruptive and you're having these problems, sometimes the medicine does not always work at the same times all the time. And you have to have other, ideas too in there and maybe other medicines too to turn to for kind of helping with that. And same about your medication that's causing those side effects of having to get up and go to the bathroom. Well, maybe I need
Yes.
to try to take it a little bit earlier, a couple hours before I go to bed or things like that. Or maybe it's one of those where you need to talk to your doctor about switching it to the morning instead. There's lots of ideas as far as that go, but you're right. I think writing it down, trying to get an idea will help with all of that too. And it's so important to get good sleep, especially with your lungs, because you've got to be able to regulate. So even when you're not breathing well, if you have the appropriate breathing stuff, like if you have the BiPAP machine, that was hard to get used to. And that was hard for me to sit there and know I have to wear this, I have to do this. But man, when I did and I had my oxygen, oh, I felt so much better rested. It's amazing what oxygen can do to
Yeah, right.
you.
That I when I talked to you the first time, I thought there's so many things that I am not aware of when it comes to how, we take for granted people who have asthma have, that the issue, or anyone that maybe has exercised and felt that compression on
Mhm.
their heart, or seasonal allergies. But when you talked about how when you guys lay down for sleep and it's just like just getting that good quality oxygen that so many people take for granted.
Mhm. Yeah, it can be a big issue. And with different lung diseases. So like I love dogs and I've had dogs. And I've had times where I've slept when the dogs have let them in the bed sleeping. And as much as I want to cuddle with them and sleep with them, it's not good. It just doesn't help. And for asthma, I suffer a little bit with that. It really triggers things and sets things off because of their hair and their dander. And then honestly, mine go in and out all the time, so they're dirty. So, before you know it, your comforter is dirty and you're like, oh, this is disgusting. And I'm sleeping on this.
Yes.
And that's probably been the biggest thing to admit that you just can't. So you need to understand we'll get our snuggles in a separate time, but that for sleep, you need you and I need me, and they can get their dog bed and their own thing. And but it's hard. It's a hard, thing to try to understand. I have to change things. It's just not, the same anymore.
Absolutely.
um with everybody trying to build a restorative rest, for their lives and stuff, and manage all of this worry and stuff. What in the end is a long-term reality with this? So with trying to deal with these sleep challenges and stuff that you come across.
I think acceptance is a big one, and understanding that, again, like I said before, you have to give yourself grace for this. You have to accept that this is something that you live with. And again, you can try doing the perfect things every single night. You can have the bedtime routine, you can have the nightly ritual, you can have the rhythm that is perfectly set up throughout the day. And you've got the most comforting, inviting space. You've done all the things. And then you lay down and you just say, I've done all the things. Why am I just not sleeping?
Hmm.
To not beat yourself up about it. You have
Hmm.
to accept that part of struggling with a chronic disease simply comes with some sleepless nights. And so giving yourself that, let's breathe through it, let's think through it, let's accept where we are. Again, control what you can control during that time frame. throughout your sleep, control the other factors that you can the next day. But when we get so frustrated with ourselves and try to fix it right then in the moment and then get frustrated, again, it kind of goes back into that cycle of you add this stress of I can't sleep, and then you're looking at the calendar, you're looking at the clock, and you're saying, well, if I fall asleep right now, I'll get this many more hours, and then an hour later you're still not asleep, and so you look back again and I'm still not asleep, so now I'm only going to get this. You're just adding stress to all of that, and so again you're going to feel it the next day. And so it's just accepting that there are certain nights, and that's for everybody, with or without chronic
Yes,
disease. This
exactly.
simply is certain nights where we just don't sleep well for whatever factor. And so let's accept what we have. Let's can control what we can and try to create as consistent a routine so that your body does know that rhythmic nature. It does know that circadian rhythm. It knows when the sun goes down, okay, I'm getting tired. And when the sun rises or when you shine that light in the morning, okay, now I'm waking up. But not forcing it, because
Hmm.
you can't force yourself. You can simply create the rhythms, create the routines, create the environment, and then I don't know, let the rest go and to see how it happens.
Well, we had talked before about the spoon theory.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that spoon theory.
So the spoon theory says that every morning you wake up with X amount of spoons. So let's say there's 5 spoons. And throughout your day, each activity takes a spoon away, which is some of your energy. So this is all about how we're maintaining our energy throughout the day. So you get up and you take a shower. Sometimes that takes a spoon away from you and you get done with the shower. The number of times I've crawled back into bed after a shower and my husband has come in, like, what are you doing? And I was like, I just showered and now I need
Yeah.
to just lay down. And he's like,
Hmm.
you showered. I'm like, I know. Some days that's enough to do it.
Hmm.
Um, then after that, maybe it is getting downstairs and getting ready for the day and getting everything packed up and doing a few household chores. That takes another spoon. You go to work and all of a sudden you've got a meeting that runs really long. That takes an extra spoon. You're only given so many spoons in the day, but depending on how you're managing your chronic illness and how many spoons each activity is taken, when you're done, you're done. You have nothing left to give. So our goal is to really manage our energy throughout the day, because that's really one of our best it's our best resource, is how we're going to make through it. So being aware of what some of those activities are going to cost you. I know for me, particularly like when it's a high workout day, I've got to make sure that I'm managing the rest of I'm not going to do a high workout day and I'm not going to clean the house at the exact same day and then
Hmm.
cut the grass.
Yeah.
Like it's just way too many spoons on my day. But again, just trying to figure out, plugging out your week ahead of time and knowing where you're going to put those, and just realize if things are taking your spoons really quickly, then you might have to rearrange your day a little bit.
Hmm. And then, it goes back to the sleep. If you used all your spoons up, then you're really going to probably make sure you need a good chunk of sleep and probably some good time to calm down and get ready for the sleep too.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And that's probably one of the most important things with chronic illness is for us to admit that, it's not like you were in high school or college when you could just stay up till 3, 4 in the morning and then turn around in 2 hours and go to work.
Yeah, and not only do I have the chronic illness on it, then I'm not the 20-year-old anymore. So I laugh all the time when I look at my kids. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're still going." I'm just going to accept the fact that I'm almost 50. And so at that point, like, no, I'm going to take that 40-year-old body and be like, "Yo, no, it's a different bird these days than it was back then." So,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's, again, like that comes with regular people as well, like as far as you just have to kind of
Hmm.
accept where you are and manage that. You want to
Hmm.
manage your time, you want to manage your energy. You want to manage where you're most present at. And for me, I just want to always want to be present where I'm at, with whom I'm at, be it at home with my family or here with you guys today or at work with my clients. You don't want to be so exhausted that you can't focus and you can't give it your
Yes.
all. And so that's your energy at the end of the day. When
Hmm.
your energy fades, then all of that is affected.
Yep. Very important. Very important. Thank you so much, Jenny. And I hope everybody had a wonderful time. And I'll see you again later. Bye.
Bye.